All right, let's tackle a sauce with a name so confusing most people just mumble their way through it. Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire if you're brave. Worcester sauce if you're lazy. Chances are there's a half-forgotten bottle hiding in your cupboard right now, waiting for its once-a-year cameo in a Bloody Mary or beef stew. But here's the twist. This funky brown liquid isn't just some random condiment. It's story born from an accident to a global sauce staple. So what's the mind-blowing origin of Worcestershire sauce? Let's pour it out, right here, on History of Food. Worcestershire sauce doesn't play around. It's salty, tangy, sweet, sour, and packed with that mysterious umami punch that makes you stop and wonder, what's actually in this stuff? Turns out it's a flavor bomb of anchovies, tamarind, molasses, vinegar, garlic, and spices that sound straight out of a wizard's cookbook. But how did anyone even invent it? By accident, prank, or pure alchemy? The story of Worcestershire sauce doesn't begin in England. It starts in India. The sauce you splash on shepherd's pie has roots in the land of curries, spices, and colonial trade routes. In the early 1800s, British officers stationed in India fell in love with those bold, tangy flavors. But when they returned home to plain old meat and potatoes, they found themselves craving that missing zing. Enter Lord Marcus Sandys, a former governor of Bengal. Back in England, he craved the bold sauce he'd loved in India. Instead of experimenting himself, he turned to two chemists in Worcester, John Lee and William Perrins, the very names still on the bottle today, and asked them to recreate it. So Leah and Perrins got to work. They gathered anchovies, tamarind, molasses, vinegar, and spices, mixed it all together, and proudly tasted it, only to realize it was absolutely disgusting. Like, make a bad face and gag disgusting. The experiment was a complete flop. The sauce was so pungent and harsh, they decided it was unsellable. Instead of throwing it out, though, they shoved the barrels in the cellar and forgot about them. A few years later, Leah and Perrins rediscovered those forgotten barrels in their cellar. But instead of spoiling, the sauce had transformed. Harsh flavors mellowed, anchovies dissolved, and the mix became bold, balanced, and addictive. In other words, the Worcestershire sauce we know today. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Worcestershire sauce was discovered because someone forgot about it in a basement? Like, it's the lazy man's miracle. This wasn't a carefully calculated recipe. It was an accident, the edible equivalent of finding 20 bucks in an old jacket pocket. And that's kind of comforting, right? Sometimes procrastination really does pay off. By the 1830s, Leah and Perrins began bottling and selling their new sauce. And to make it stand out, they did something clever. They wrapped each bottle in paper like a little gift. This wasn't just for looks. It also protected the glass during shipping. But it ended up becoming iconic. To this day, if you grab a bottle of Leah and Perrins, you'll see it's still wrapped in that signature paper. It's a branding genius from the 19th century that somehow still works. So how did people start using it? Well, it became a Victorian-era sensation. Housewives added it to soups and stews, gentlemen splashed it on their meat, and bartenders eventually mixed it into cocktails. Worcestershire sauce went global faster than a Victorian train schedule. By the mid-1800s, it was shipping not just across Britain, but to the United States, where it became a staple in everything from barbecue marinades to, you guessed it, the Bloody Mary. Here's the surprising part. Worcestershire sauce was one of the West's first brushes with umami, long before the word existed. The anchovies broke down into glutamates, creating that crave-worthy, savory depth no one could explain but everyone loved. In a way, it was fusion cooking before fusion was even a thing. Now about that tongue-twister of a name. It comes from Worcester, the town where Leah and Perrins had their pharmacy. In Britain, it's Worcester or Worcestershire, but Americans saw the spelling and said, nope. Can't blame them. It looks like a spelling bee prank. Most people just mumble, pass me the Worsh, you know, the sauce. At its core, Worcestershire sauce is a fermented blend of vinegar, molasses, sugar, tamarind, anchovies, onions, garlic, cloves, chili pepper extract, and a handful of other spices. That mix is aged for months until all the sharp edges mellow out into one deep, savory punch. The anchovies dissolve completely during fermentation, so you don't see them. What makes it fascinating is how every ingredient pulls its weight. Tamarind brings tartness, vinegar adds bite, molasses and sugar provide sweetness, anchovies give that salty depth, while garlic, onions, and cloves create warmth and spice. It's basically a masterclass in balancing sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, all 5 tastes in a single bottle. And of course, the global variations are endless. Japan has its own take, known simply as Worcester sauce, but it's sweeter and used on fried foods like tonkatsu. Mexico has salsa inglesa, their local spin. In the Philippines, Worcestershire sauce is practically a pantry must-have for marinades. That little accident in a British cellar somehow became a worldwide flavor passport. The best part? Leah and Perrins still makes it in the UK using the original recipe. Only a few people know the full blend of spices, and the ingredients are reportedly shipped to their factory in anonymous packaging so nobody can reverse engineer it. So yes, Worcestershire sauce is up there with Coca-Cola and KFC in the super secret recipe club. Next time you dash a few drops into stew or a Bloody Mary, remember, you're tasting one of the earliest East meets West mashups. Born from colonial India, tinkered with by English chemists, Worcestershire sauce is more than a condiment. It's a 200-year-old story of curiosity, redemption, and global flavor, all packed into one brown bottle. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution.